You're listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. Join us as we explore new frontiers in consciousness, science, and evolution. And now here's your host, Karen Curry Parker.
We often operate on the assumption that humans are all the same. We have similar drives, desires, and temperament. It's almost like there's some kind of earthly blueprint for being human, and any variation that we experience away from this blueprint makes us wrong, bad, or less than. Many of you may have had this experience. We're raised in families that either feel comfortable to us or families that we struggle to fit into. I'm not talking about love here. I'm talking about feeling like you belong or fit or are even similar to the people you grow up as. Now, in my experience of coaching people for more than 28 years, I find that most people feel like they don't fit in or that there's something wrong with them. Most people don't feel like they even belong here on the planet. Ancient wisdom has taught us for centuries that life is comprised of different energies embodied in the elements, fire, earth, water, wood, and metal, and that these elements have different qualities and characteristics. The 5 elements originated in ancient Chinese medicine more than 2,000 years ago, when scholars theorized that the universe was composed of these forces. If we are part of this world, even if you feel like you're not, and these elements of energy are contained within this world, it stands to reason that we, as humans, embody the themes of these energies in a unique combination. And given the diversity of the world we live in, it also stands to reason that we are each uniquely configured in the most delicious and diverse way possible, because it's our diversity that makes life possible. And I would even add, interesting. What if you're not broken, stuck, or blocked, but that you simply have your own unique energy configuration, and that this configuration influences your personality, your health, and of course, how you fit into the world? What if understanding the nature of your elemental energy allows you to bring yourself back into balance with yourself so that you can understand who you are, build better connections with others, and answer the most important question in the world: who are you? Welcome to Quantum Conversations. I'm Karen Curry Parker, and I'm thrilled to share this conversation with author, speaker, actress, dancer, and teacher Dondi Dahlin. Dondi co-authored the book, The Little Book of Energy Medicine, with her mother, Donna Eden. She also heads the Teach the Teacher program at the Eden Energy Medicine Certification Program in Phoenix, Arizona, where she also teaches teachers public speaking. Dondi's the author of a new book called The 5 Elements, based on the work that she's been teaching for 13 years at Omega Institute in New York and at various Eden Energy Medicine workshops around the world since the 1990s. I'm going to jump right in and just say welcome, Dondi, because we got a lot to talk about today, and I can't wait to unpack all of these different things that you've done and to really talk about the 5 elements. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you, Karen. I'm so happy to be here as well and excited about this interview.
So your new book, The 5 Elements, is based on the wisdom of Chinese medicine. Can you tell me a little bit about the system?
Yes. So the 5 elements, it's a brilliant system. It's both a personality type system and also a health system. So the 5 elements came into play in China over 5,000 years ago. It was first written into Chinese medical text by physicians and doctors about 2,000 years ago. So it's very, very old. It's very time-tested. Many people in Asia know it, work with it, live their lives through the elements, which are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And so those 5 elements of water, wood, fire, earth, and metal are personality types. And once you know your personality type, they also work as a health system. So when you know that you are primarily a wood type with secondary water, you'll know that you'll have specific health challenges, specific ways that your body does really well. Maybe you're really, really good at running, or you have an excellent heart, and the doctor always says, wow, you have the strongest heart. These all play into your exact personality type. But the personality types aren't just health. They also tell us how somebody will act under stress, how somebody will react, how they'll love, what their behaviors are at work, what their emotional challenges might be under stress. So you can imagine, just by me saying this much, that it really helps you in relationships. And that's why I love it. My mom taught me the system when I was young. As I grew older through my teenage years and into college, I realized, oh my gosh, I have this tool. I have like this roadmap for life that is helping me in my relationships that a lot of other people don't have, and I wanted to teach it to everybody. And so that's the primary reason why I wrote the book. I also wanted to write a book that was really usable for lay people, because there are some excellent books on the 5 elements, but they're heavily entrenched in Chinese medicine and in health. And there are a lot of terms that are very big and take some study. I wanted to write a simple book that somebody could pick up, look at, say, oh my gosh, I think I'm a water type, or I think I'm a fire type. And now I know why I am having this trouble with my husband, who is a metal type. But if we use this communication, it will help us, because the 5 elements also teaches really good communication between the elements. So I know I'm jumping all over, but I get really excited about it. It's such a golden system that people can use for their life.
So tell me a little bit about each of the 5 types, just because I know now everybody's going, okay, what type am I?
Yes. Let me touch on each one. So this is really just the tip of the iceberg. But in the simplest way, the water type, which we'll start with, the water type is a type that has 2 archetypes. So their 2 archetypes are the deep thinking philosopher and the playful baby. And you can be one or the other or both if you are a water. So the deep thinking philosopher, of course, is intuitive and creative and imaginative, and they're sensitive, and they look for meaning in life. Meaning has value to them in whatever they're doing, or whatever they're doing in work or the next project. And they're sort of a slow rhythm. They're a person who really likes to smell the roses and move slowly through life. The other archetype is the playful, sweet, curious baby. And again, a water type can be one or the other or both. And I often bring up health challenges, though I want your listeners to know that this does not mean that you will have challenges with the organs that I am stating. But if you are a water type and you have some health challenges in your life, you may want to look to the kidneys or the bladder. Those are the 2 organs that govern water. So on to the second type, it's wood. The wood type of person is very determined. They're very comfortable with power. Of all the elements, they are the most comfortable with power. They like being first. They like being the best. They like being challenged. They like to kind of test people. They test themselves. They're very competitive, and they test others. Their archetype is the pioneer or the warrior. So you can imagine moving ahead quickly. They're an urgent type, not like the water at all. Remember, the water is a slower vibration. The wood is urgent to get ahead. They're decisive, and they're confident, and they're relentless. And for health, their 2 organs are the liver and the gallbladder. So again, if you think you are saying to yourself, wow, from the little that Dondi has said, I think maybe I'm a work type. Well, if you have health challenges, you'll look to the liver and the gallbladder for where those health challenges might stem. And you also want to be really good to these organs because like water is the kidneys and the bladder, wood is the liver and the gallbladder. You want to really nurture these organs. They're going to work overtime for you as a water or a wood. So our third element of the 5 elements is the fire. And the fire is the comedian. They're full of joy and love and happiness. They enjoy the ride in life. They enjoy life. And even if life tends to get a little serious, depressing, if they're, dealing with the day-to-day chaos of the world, a fire's gift is to always spin things back to something positive. They're very, very good at that. Their archetype is the wizard, and so you can imagine the wizard is very magical. They're this magical being that's spinning up glitter from their cape, and they have the magic wand. The fire is the optimist. They're joyful, and they have high energy. So for health, they get 4 organs or parts of the body. Everyone else gets 2, but they get 4. And they are the heart, the pericardium, which is that protective sac around the heart, the small intestine, and a system called the triple warmer. And if you haven't heard of the triple warmer before, it's very well known in most parts of Asia, but not so well known here in the West. And all the triple warmer is a system in the body. So you can think of it like the endocrine system or the lymphatic system or the nervous system. But the triple warmer system governs fight, flight, or freeze. So for the fire element who tends to panic under stress, triple warmer goes into full gear. And when we study the 5 elements, we learn a lot more about triple warmer because it's kind of a key to life. If you can learn how to be friends with your triple warmer, everything in life is easier.
Make friends with your triple warmer. Got it.
Yes, exactly. So the next element is the 4th one, and it's earth. And earth people are so compassionate, so peaceful, so calm, and they're very kind people. The earth person is that person who feels the world really does run on love. We are all here for love. We are all connected. None of us are separate. And let's be of service to others. And so we can all help each other in life. That is the earth person. Their archetype is the caretaker. Or you can think of the preschool teacher taking care of all the little kids and making them feel safe and comfortable. This is what the earth person does. They make everyone in their vicinity, whether it's at work or in their family, feel really safe. And their health organs to watch out for are the stomach and the spleen. The stomach and the spleen. So last in the 5-element wheel, and we say wheel because if you see the 5 elements in a book or online or in my book, The 5 Elements, they're often depicted in a wheel. And we start with water and we end with metal. And metal has the archetype of the alchemist. So the alchemist is a person who was very well known during the 1800s, early 1900s, and they would take a rock and chip away at the rock and find the gem beneath. And then the jeweler would take it and make it into an amazing piece of jewelry. So you can think of the metal person at chipping away at life, finding the gem. The metal person doesn't always define themselves as spiritual, but deep down, kind of their foundation is that they're looking for a sort of sacred connection and sacred path to whatever it is after this life, whether we go on and have another life, or we go to, quote, heaven, or we go to a place of bliss. The metal person is connected to that. They're full of integrity. They're quite sophisticated. They're orderly. They have high values. They're idealistic. They're rational. And so this is the metal type, and their organs are the lungs and the large intestine. So before I finish this little tip of the iceberg with the 5 elements, I just want to say that once you start studying the health of each element, it completely connects to the emotional state. And I just want to give a little example of that. So the metal person, for example, every element has kind of a lesson that they're here on earth to work out. For the metal, it's about letting go. Well, as soon as you look to their organs of lung and large intestine, you think, oh, what do the lungs and the large intestine do every single day, several or many, many times a day? With the lungs, they let go. You breathe in, you breathe out, you're letting go of all of the toxins. Your large intestine or colon is letting go of toxins and waste every day. We look to the earth's life lesson is about really being able to synthesize life and make decisions. Well, what does the stomach and the spleen do? They make decisions about what foods are going where, how they're going to take the foods in, how they're going to metabolize them. And over and over and over, they metabolize and synthesize and work with the foods we take in. And that's what earths do. They metabolize emotions every day. They're a very emotional and sensitive element. So each element has this connection from mind body, from emotional to physical. And again, Karen, I've just touched on the iceberg, but that's a little bit about each element.
Well, so I have a couple of questions because I'm thinking about this from multiple perspectives. The first question I have is, are we just one type? Because I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, well, I could be a couple of these. I have kids that could be a couple of these. So are we locked into one type, or is there sort of a secondary or tertiary kind of type that you can have?
Right. Excellent. So when we study the 5 elements, we realize that we probably have all 5 types inside of us. Well, we do. Even if you're a person who gets to know the elements and you say, I don't have any fire, I'm not a fire type. I myself am a wood water, so I'm a combination, and I often say, I don't have any metal. I can't feel any metal. But then I realize I do have metal in me. We all have all 5 elements. But what happens when you get to know the elements, you realize that there's one really strong element that will come out over and over and over in your life. And it's usually, well, oftentimes it's under stress. You feel a little bit of stress and you're guided by one element. Another element will often come out behind closed doors or in private or with your family. So most people are strongest in 2 elements, but every once in a while someone has 3 really strong elements. Now, I almost never meet someone who's really strong in all 5. That would be a very, very, very balanced person, especially under stress, to resource from all 5 elements so you're less stressed out, less panicked, less fearful, less angry. That's a very tall order, and most people aren't that. But I'll tell you, people with water, a lot of water or a lot of earth, they're usually the ones who say, I'm everything. I'm all of them. I'm all 5. But then when we look deeper into how they are with their family, how they are in communication, how they are with their emotions, because each element has an emotion that they default to under stress. So for water, it's fear. For wood, it's anger. For fire, it's panic. For earth, it's over worry. And for metal, it's grief. And if you look back at your whole life and you think, okay, when I've been really stressed, where do I go? Do I go to fear, anger, panic, worry, or grief? That usually gives you a key into your main element or your secondary element. And as I said, most people work with two main elements.
Cool. So one of the things I really appreciated about your book was that in the beginning, especially, you talked a lot about your element being different than your mother's and I think your sister's. And talk to me a little bit about communication tips for each type, so that if you know, oh, okay, this person is metal, what's like a one-liner if I'm going to deal with somebody who I'm sensing or feeling or knowing is a metal person? How am I going to best communicate with each one of these 5 types?
Well, that's a terrific question, because once you know how to communicate, that's really one of the keys you'll have for the rest of your life. So as you said, I'm very different than my mom and my sister, and I'll take me and my sister as an example. I'm primarily wood. She's primarily earth. These two elements couldn't be more different. The wood is very comfortable with power. As I said early on, they are urgent. They get straight to the point. The earth person is very self-effacing. They aren't comfortable with power. They put themselves on the back burner. So earth people like gentle communication, and they like a lot of time. Both the waters and the earth types need time to make decisions. They need a gentle voice. So it's not only the words you're using with a water and an earth, but the tone in your voice. So you want to speak more gently to them. Because if I come at a wood and an earth like this, with this sort of, a water and an earth with a wood tone, a very pointed, directed tone in my voice, waters and earths feel like they're being yelled at. So I would say that's the main clue with a water and an earth, to soften your voice, slow it down, give them time. If there's something important to talk about, I would ask them, when is a good time for you to talk about this? Because they don't like being rushed. So I would never go to a water and an earth and say, we have to talk about this right now. I am really ticked off. This is not working. That's going to blow a water and an earth out completely. They will just probably fall apart. So those are the clues for the water and the earth.
I have just had huge insights around what's going on in the dynamics in my house right now. So.
Oh, excellent. This system is so good with kids as well. And my sister wrote the chapter on kids in my book, and it's just so great to know how to use language that's going to work for them. So if you have a wood child, wood kids deal with a lot of anger. They want to know the truth, and they don't want somebody beating around the bush. So it's not good to go to a wood and say, hey, I'd like to talk about this, and it might take a couple of hours. Oh my gosh, that's going to drive the wood nuts. They just want to know right away what the problem is and how it can be fixed. That's the key for the wood type. For the fire type, you've got to bring joy. They're all about joy. So I would say whatever words you're using with a fire type, make sure they aren't painted too darkly, too negatively. Use positive terms and do something fun with them. Hey, do you want to go to lunch? We have this little thing we can share over lunch. You know, we're using words like share instead of I need to talk to you or I need to discuss this. It's more, hey, let's go and let's share with each other what we feel about this. And so really watching your words, remember fires and also earths of the two elements want to be connected to people. They want to feel like everybody's on equal plane, so they never want to feel like someone's talking down to them. And then lastly, the metal type, they are your solo type of person. They don't want to talk in groups. They have a harder time with meetings at work. They like one-on-one. And then they also, like the water type, need time to really digest what has been said. And a water and a metal do it very differently. A water will usually take what has been said, and then they need a day or two to think about it. You don't ever want to put their feet to the fire and say, hey, I need a decision now, because the water needs time to make a decision or think. The metal person will usually go into some sort of spirituality to make their decision or to deal with what you've said. And so that could be yoga, that could be meditation, that could even be a walk on the beach. For a metal type, that's a very spiritual moment to just walk alone in nature. And so they'll need that time. So those are some of the ways to talk to the elements, and following your instincts based on their emotions. Remember, water is fear, wood is anger, fire is panic, earth is worry, and metal is grief. So when you've talked to the respective elements or the people who have those elements, just remember, if a person is going to fear and suddenly they're feeling scared and worrying about the future, you don't judge them as much, and they don't judge themselves as much when they know their element, because then they can think, oh yeah, I'm a water type. This is my vibration. This is my rhythm. This is what I was born into as a water. That is the emotion I'm going to feel, is fear. And so you don't beat yourself up anymore. Here in the West, anger is something that people are very put off by. Anger has a really tough place in our society, whereas in many other societies, like in parts of Asia, they say anger is something to become friends with. So you become friends with your anger. Once a person knows they're a wood type, they don't beat themselves up anymore thinking, wow, I always get angry and everybody tells me I shouldn't be so angry, but what am I going to do because I feel this anger? Well, when you're a wood type, you're born that way. You're born with this rhythm. When you go to stress, you're going to feel angry. It's just life. And you learn that, oh my gosh, knowing these 5 elements and just those emotions helps to minimize stress. Helps to minimize stress and relax and not freak out so much about people's reactions, because we all react differently under stress.
Well, I would imagine, too, that whether you're a partner or a friend or even a parent or a child, that having this understanding about the people in your life who you love can really help you create a more sacred space for them to be where they are.
The 5 elements is so terrific for children. As a parent, to know the element of your kids makes all the difference. You realize that when you have a child who goes off into their room and shuts the door and plays loud music and doesn't want to talk and doesn't want you to come inside, you probably have a water on your hands. Water people and water kids go deep into their minds, deep thinking, and they really need to come home to themselves that way. They're often attracted to music. They will play a lot of music and get lost in the music. And if you just give that child time to come home to themselves, then they'll usually come out of that room and talk to you again. It might not be on the schedule you want it to. It might be a bit later. But you understand you have a water type. The earth type of child is going to be very, very empathic. They will feel the struggles of people and animals, everybody around them. They're very, very highly intuitive, and they'll want to reach out and comfort anyone who is in need. Your fire child, it seems like, wow, it would be great to have a child who's a fire because they'd be so full of joy and laughter and happiness. But when you're a metal parent, now metals don't have a lot of emotion. I'm not going to say they aren't as happy, because I know a lot of metals who are happy, but they don't express happiness and joy in a big way. They're very stoic and kind of solemn. And so when they have a fire child, it can be challenging for a metal parent. They think, oh my gosh, my child is bouncing off the walls and so happy and laughing and talking all the time. It can seem like ADD or ADHD to a metal parent to have a fire child. And I actually believe that there are probably a lot of kids in school who have been misdiagnosed with ADD or ADHD who are just fire kids or going through a fire phase. And one of the really important things to know about a fire child is they need to move. They can't sit at a desk all day. And in fact, there are schools that I just love reading about up in Sweden and Finland and Norway, that these schools allow their kids to get up from their desks every 40 minutes and jump around and move around. And I think, oh my gosh, that's great for all kids, but especially fire kids, they've got to move. So your wood type of child is going to be the angry child. It's just what they're going to be. And you don't have to beat yourself up as a parent anymore thinking, oh my gosh, my child is so full of rage. Are they going to become a mass murderer? No, they probably aren't. They're just they're just a wood child dealing with that anger. They will deal with anger. They will learn to manage anger if you're more accepting of it and accepting of them and their anger. And that is the key, of course, to learn how to manage their anger and express it in a healthy way. And you can actually feel lucky that you have a wood kid, because wood people and wood kids are really in touch with their animal instinct, their primal nature. And if they can learn how to soften that and be gentle with it, they'll be, oh my gosh, the most incredible human being. And then a metal child is going to be your child who's quiet, who spends a lot of time alone, and there's nothing wrong with that. They probably won't have very many friends. A metal type of person is not a social person. They're on a solo journey in their life. And again, once you accept that this is the vibration they were born into, a metal child or a metal adult is on a solo journey, then you don't keep trying to force your child to have friends or to have a social life. This is where they sit in the elements, and this is where they're comfortable. So those are just some of the wonderful things to know about kids and the 5 elements.
As we were talking before we started the call, I have 8 children, and I am a little bit clued into my type bit. I probably need to go take your quiz and get really clear. But I'm marveling in your description of how my different kids and their different types and their responses to particularly adolescence is very, it's really spot on. And I'm thinking, man, I have an 8-year-old now, and I so get where she's at, and I so get that my husband and I are very different than her. So you've given me some good ideas to learn how to slow down and talk quietly so that she doesn't erupt into tears every 10 minutes. So, all right. So I have one last question for you, and this is a question I ask everyone when they come on the Quantum Conversation show, and that is, we're living in a time that's pretty interesting, and we have a lot of, I think, energy, especially if you pop open CNN or the news, and you're being present to the stories that the collective is playing out in front of us. Talk to me about what you think is the one thing someone needs to do to stay grounded and balanced in response to the stressors of the outside world, and maybe the craziness a little bit that some of us, especially the more sensitive water types, might be experiencing as a result of what's going on in the world today.
That's a tough one. And in the five elements, of course, we're all going to deal with the stress in a different way. But I think there's one common denominator for every element. When we go under stress or we see what's on CNN and we hear what's happening in our world, we all start to feel separate from one another. We start to feel like, oh, they over there and them and me, and we're all separate. And I think to remind ourselves, and as hard as it is, I'm not saying it's easy, but especially for water types who tend to feel like they're all alone, who tend to feel like no one understands them and they don't understand anybody. But all the elements, we are all connected. We are all connected through humanity. We all have hearts. We were all born pure and kind and good. And for whatever reason in life, we change, but we can change back to being connected and having a deep understanding that we are not separate. We're all here on earth together. And I have a favorite quote, and it ties right into this, from the spiritual, incredible man, Thich Nhat Hanh. And he has many quotes that are grand, but this one, he says, "We are all here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness." And for me, I keep that on my cork board. I keep it in my kitchen because as a wood element, I often feel separate from others, and I feel anger. I feel a lot of anger. How can that person do that? How can this person do this? But if I come back to the five elements of knowing that we're all doing our best from our own element, and I come back to that quote, "We are all here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness," it brings me back to a place of calm and peace, and I can see the light again.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you so much. So if you want to learn more about your element and even your secondary element, right? You visit Dondi's website, learnthefiveelements.com. She's got a great free quiz you can take there to help you discover more about your hardwiring, your natural essence, and how you can learn to be more present to the truth of who you are in your life. Dondi, thank you so much for joining us. Your book, The Five Elements, is easy to get on Amazon and other online distributors. And of course, if you go to a bookstore, which I think people still do, I like to go there. I'm sure you can find it there as well. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And really, I got a lot out of this, and I hope everybody else who listened did too. So I appreciate your work so much. We are all different, and yet underneath it all, powerfully the same. We use our differences to divide us, to trigger in us unhealed ancient issues of separation, lack of worthiness, disempowerment, and more. We use our differences to label each other and ourselves instead of seeking those places of harmony and alignment. When we live a life that's out of balance with our true essence, we experience fear, restlessness, judgment, exhaustion, pain, and disconnection. To bring yourself back into harmony with who you truly are, you first have to know who you truly are. And ultimately, as a result of that journey of discovery, you have to also know how to live as yourself. This isn't a selfish journey. In fact, I believe it's the most important journey you can take. A path that leads you back to your true self, your true nature, your vitality, more love, more connection to source, and ultimately an awareness that not only you, but everyone on this planet with us is a unique and vital part of the whole. If we're going to create peace in the world, sustainability in the world, and live radically authentic lives that are sufficient and joyful, then we have to first and foremost find the path that leads us back to who we truly are. The ancients knew and taught this, and we are still heeding the wisdom of the sages to help us make progress on this journey. Let's take a moment to thank our modern pioneers like Dondi Dahlin, who continue to echo the wisdom of the ancients and remind us that we are each unique and vital once-in-a-lifetime events, and that your role, your joy and fulfillment is vital to the health and abundance of the planet. If you'd like to discover more about the truth of who you truly are, please visit our Quantum Conversations Facebook page or visit our website, www.quantumalignmentsystem.com, where you can receive your free quantum human design chart and report. You'll also get access to great articles and free resources, including our weekly free global alignment meditation to help you remember how important you are to the cosmic unfolding of the universe. Thank you for joining me for Quantum Conversations. I'm Karen Curry Parker, honoring your unique and vital role in the cosmic plan. We are who we are because of you.
Thanks for listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. For more information, visit joyfulmission.com.